Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 2nd. Right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery here. You can see the upper level low spinning across the Intermountain West off the Pacific Ocean. Another cutoff low exists. We're in between here, getting a ridge across the area. It's going to warm us up here across much of the region today. We'll look at some of those temperatures coming up here. You can see the active energy over here across western Alaska here. Where will this energy go? How long are we going to be dealing with this ridge with above average temperatures across the area, below average precipitation, chilly overnight lows? How long is this going to last? So we'll take a look at that here coming up in the extended forecast. Take a look at this hurricane down here off the coast of Mexico. Should make landfall in the next day or so. Taking a closer look here, look at this Bolt Creek fire producing this nasty smoke infiltrating the Puget Sound up through southwest BC. You see the river valleys have some pretty good smoke into them. Snoqualmie River Valley here probably got some low-level clouds mixed in with it as well. Look at this stratus tongue moving up the Oregon coast here. Really going to cool down the Oregon coast from yesterday up towards 80 degrees for many areas. Much cooler today. You're probably going to need a jacket as the stratus tongue moves up like a ghostly apparition up towards southwest Washington. You can see it infiltrating the valleys here into the Oregon coastal range as we speak. The Cedar Creek fire producing some smoke as well, probably getting into southern Willamette Valley here as well, and probably a little bit of smoke up towards Portland, but not quite as bad as the Puget Sound this morning here. So we'll see once this temperatures get going a little bit, probably going to get a northerly component across Puget Sound, might kick this smoke up and around the Puget Sound. So if you get some smoke, you know where it's coming from. That Bolt Creek fire still is polluting the Puget Sound pretty well here. You can see some low-level clouds. These will burn off during the afternoon through southwest Washington, some of the coastal range here. You can see the Goat Rocks fire still producing smoke, kicking that off to the east as well. Upper level low off to our east is taking its sweet time getting out of here. As you can see, some low-level clouds up through the higher terrain of the Rocky Mountains here through Montana and the Idaho Panhandle. Looking at Portland, Oregon here, they have an air quality alert for that Cedar Creek fire. You can see the dense fog advisory along the Oregon coast, that stratus tongue moving up with some dense fog. Seattle, southwest Washington shows that dense fog advisory. They could probably put something out for an air quality advisory. I would think across the Puget Sound. Looks like quite a bit of smoke out there this morning. However, nothing out there right now. Seattle 78 yesterday, nowhere near that record high set back in the amazing summer of 1987. But today we are going to get closer up towards the upper 70s, maybe even 80 degrees. We have a potential to break that all-time record high set back in 1993. Portland, Oregon, nowhere near their record high yesterday, but still a warm day, 86 degrees. Going to be warm again today, but probably not towards that record high set back in 1970. Now, taking a look here, Her 3 km, 8 meters above the ground. This is basically surface smoke. It's picking up the Bolt Creek fire here pretty well here across the western slopes of the Cascades. And the takeaway from this is it's producing quite a bit of smoke still. And you can see we have that easterly component. So some of this is going to be introduced into western Washington at times. Picking up on the Cedar Creek fire a bit there as well. Not producing as much smoke right now as the Bolt Creek fire, though, however. Not really showing the Goat Rocks fire there too much. But for the most part, the takeaway here is we can expect smoke all the way through Tuesday morning for much of western Washington, southwest BC, and especially the Cascades of Washington and British Columbia also. Now looking here, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. Let's look at the extended forecast. Yesterday afternoon's European run, upper level low over the Intermountain West. There's Washington, Oregon, BC here. Hawaiian Islands, Alaska. Cutoff low over the Pacific Ocean here. System moving across the Aleutian Islands. No big deal for us here in the Pacific Northwest. As you can see, this energy spill back out over the Gulf of Alaska. It gets cut off from its polar origins here and allows this ridge to amplify in front of it. But as we go through the extended, you can see another polar lobe attempt to get down into the lower latitudes here and swing some energy through BC and Alberta, which would dampen our ridge and push that off to the west here and would cool us down some. Not a lot of precipitation probably associated with this, but there may be some. Something to watch here as we get out towards hour 200 here through later next week, and we'll continue to watch that. Now let's see what the GFS says. This is yesterday. Last night's run here, 06Z, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, upper level lows, Pacific Ocean, Intermountain West. You can see the ridge amplify as this cold air spills out over the Gulf of Alaska. Troughing allows that ridge to amplify. And the GFS is in pretty good agreement with that polar lobe kind of swinging down some energy through British Columbia here around hour 200. And that would bring us some relief from the warmer temperatures, at least here about on October 10th. Ridge pushed off across the Gulf of Alaska here. And after that, things are going to get squirrely in the forecast. We're just too far out there at this point. But again, maybe this trough will end up a little bit further west and bring some more meaningful precipitation across Pacific Northwest. But right now, it looks like it's kind of taking a trajectory that would not bring a lot of precipitation, maybe a little, though. We'll continue to watch that through the next few days. This is still a ways out there in the forecast. This is looking at dynamic tropopause potential temperatures. Kind of shows you where the coldest air mass is here. This is looking at the top of the atmosphere. And of course, if you're in the purple and the white here, or the blues, you're going to be in a chillier air mass versus if you're in the red and the yellows here. So taking a look here, you can see the ridge kind of building over the area as this cold air spins out over the Gulf of Alaska here, bringing us our ridging, keeping us warm here across Pacific Northwest, all the way through the end of next week, towards the next weekend here. But you can see some activity start to move down across Pacific Northwest as this ridge sets up shop a little bit further west. This polar lobe swings down at the end of next weekend here on the GFS. But still, we're pretty far out there. But the GFS and the European are showing this energy sliding down through BC. So we'll continue to watch that. We're just kind of checking things out and waiting to see when this pattern change is going to occur here across Pacific Northwest. It's inevitable, but sometimes it can be delayed a pretty good amount, as you guys have seen so far this fall. Astoria cooling down a bit today from yesterday. You can see seasonable temperatures around 60, mid-low 60s as we go through the extended forecast there. Klamath Falls, nice warm days up towards 80 degrees, but chilly overnight lows down into the 40s. That should continue on all the way through towards next week, and pretty good confidence in that ridge there. Then what happens after that is in much more of question, as per usual. Seattle, here's the European showing us right up towards the upper 70s, towards 80 degrees. Are we going to break those record highs there for today and tomorrow? Still in question, but it's going to be close. Then we cool down a bit as we go through this week. No heat wave, of course, as you can see, some chillier overnight lows. But again, some pretty good uncertainty in the forecast coming up after next weekend. Vancouver International, temperatures generally in the 60s, as you can see here. Brookings, Oregon, just kind of checking out the extended forecast, seeing if you get some offshore flow, and that's kind of popping up again there off into the future. But you can see the cool down that's coming for much of the Oregon coast with that stratus tongue moving up this morning. Portland International, probably not going to get record highs here coming up for today and tomorrow, and then a general cool down coming as we go through the week, but still warm temperatures. Seattle, Tacoma, kind of showing that nebulous signal off in the extended for some possibility of precipitation, but not a lot of it, and plenty of dry runs as we go through October 10th and 11th here. With the trajectory of that system swinging down through BC, it's not going to be a big precipitation maker. That is not coming off the ocean here. It's not any kind of an atmospheric river or anything like that. So right now we're just watching it. Again, things can change quickly. We're just trying to figure things out as we go here. Tillamook Airport, same thing, kind of a nebulous signal with the potential for some precipitation starting after October 10th. This is percent of average precipitation from about the beginning of September through October 1st. You can see the Pacific Northwest, much below average here. You can see as that upper level low went through California earlier in September, that really helped bump up some of the precipitation values across the region here, and didn't really get the Pacific Northwest. Look at Willamette Valley, Puget Sound, Cascades of Washington, Oregon, well below average, even though we did have some areas here that were above average, but generally far and few between compared to the general bulk of the entire Pacific Northwest. This one, since August 3rd, you can see that same signal still exists here. And this is from the 4th of July on. Generally a very dry summer we just went through here across western Washington, Oregon, into southwest BC as well. This is average minimum departure from average. You can see that we were above average for much of the Pacific Northwest. I mean, a little tiny bit of an area here across the central Oregon Cascades. But for the most part, generally the entire Pacific Northwest was above average for this summer, at least until October 1st here. So yeah, I mean, if you're on the Oregon coast, you probably see that stratus layer out there. Much cooler today across the Oregon coast towards the southwest Washington coast, but some nice sunshine for much of the area, unless you're dealing with that forest fire smoke through the Willamette Valley and really through the Puget Sound, southwest BC. That Bolt Creek fire is nasty. It's pumping out some smoke this morning. Yeah, so we'll continue to watch that activity. We'll continue to watch that extended forecast. No big signal for precip coming up, but we might get a nice trough moving down through BC that cools us down at least as we go towards the end of next weekend. But right now, this ridge is going to build and keep us pretty dry here across Pacific Northwest through this week towards next weekend here. But it is October. Things can change quick. So we'll continue to do this day by day. Hope you guys can get out and enjoy the nice weather here through this week. And we will do this again tomorrow. And I'll talk to you guys then.